As I said, the real best team just looks like G2. Like, as much
Sure.
as I did that whole thing, here's the problem, Monty. They've done me again, because the outliers is what always fucking does you in. Like, I'm totally correct in that analysis. Most times you'd be a fool to replace someone like Jankos. Remember, last year he was still even good. Like, the chances you ever get someone who's like, the joke is it'd have to be like a ball level talent. Like, the joke, even though we've only seen 3 games, I'll just say it right now, the Yank guy does look amazing.
He
Like,
does.
looks like what a fucking great scouting job this has been so far.
All right.
Just walked in the door, started carrying.
I think G2 is very interesting because we did bring up questions last week, such as Mickey X being back on this roster. That's a little weird considering they just ditched him and he was good on XL, but it's not like, oh, he's the best support in this league. Hans Sama was fucking terrible on Team Liquid in a region that he should have absolutely dominated. And not only was he terrible, but he didn't even look like he was playing the style that we are accustomed to Hans Sama playing, which is this really lane dominant, very aggressive. Let me pull out the Draven. Well, the Draven's back, guys, and it fucking is destroying people, which is, I think, really wonderful to watch. So, that synergy with Mickey X, it seems to be on point. But really, I do want to emphasize how smart the coaching has been on this team. And we often talk about or have had Dylan Falco on this show, but really, this team has been very well set up for success. I think their drafts have been really savvy with the return of the Zeri meta. Now, if you guys remember back to especially summer playoffs, some of the best players in the world, including Viper, were playing Draven into some of these matchups and playing early. Well, they had a really good game plan surrounding the Draven. The Draven draft was good into the Zeri and Yuumi. Yikes, pathing was super good and aggressive. Like, they have really solid game plans and fundamental understandings of how these lanes are supposed to work and how they're supposed to play around them that is just functioning beautifully. So a lot of this, I think you do have to chalk up to the coaching staff at G2 because they have done an amazing job. And I don't think that Yike looks this good if he doesn't have these coaches kind of like directing very well his early game plans and the way that they're snowballing through bot.
The other thing as well is, like, I couldn't have believed that, like, a rookie comes in and it's like, oh, he did, like, pretty good for a guy who's just on... No, he was actually, like, just stomping some of these games. Like, look at the champions this guy's picking. Again, just, like, whatever he wants, apparently, mate. Whatever he wants.
Yep. Yeah, and I again, his champion pool seems very wide. But you do have to acknowledge that we need to see what happens when G2 loses bot lane. Because they have been winning bot lane so hard from like the start of the game. If you put your mind back to the beginning of the weekend and you think about the first game that they played against XL, they basically just ran at them with Heimerdinger at level 1. And for whatever reason, Patrick and Gargamas just decided to play scared. A very strange game. I mean, we'll get to XL and the problems that they have. Like, they seem really afraid in the early game, and it's not a good look. But Hansama and Mickey X were just kind of like running at them in that game. And then they're playing like super lane dominant, combos like Draven Nautilus with a huge help from the jungler and the jungle pressure in the early game. So I want to know what happens when this team loses bot. And to me, that's going to be very indicative because as we discussed earlier, a lot of teams around the world are finding ways to win by playing really hard through bot lane and really hard around dragon control. And G2 has identified that, is doing that, has a lot of versatility in that position, and has a jungler that's willing to help. Now, what's interesting to me about G2, so that's one side of the coin, is like, I feel like we've seen one style and I need to see more. But the other side of that coin is we really haven't seen a big pop-off performance from Caps yet. And that's scary because we know there's another dimension to this roster. Yeah, he did well in the Zac guys. Yes, that was played at Worlds as a Sylas counter. Yes, Caps was practicing the Zac against Sylas in solo queue at Worlds. That was a big conversation point at the time that Worlds was happening.
He also built differently if you look. Like, he built for damage on this one. Come on.
Yeah. And like, I mean, we're seeing even Zac jungles these days. These are the ones that, you are going for. I mean, Demonic Embrace is just very strong right now. So we have seen it. I mean, Zac can be played out of multiple positions, to be fair. He can be played in like 4 positions to greater or lesser degrees of effectiveness at the moment. But anyway, it was a good pick. and you see the depth of their champion pools, which you expect from a player like Caps. But I want to see what happens when bot lane loses and when Caps picks it up with a carry, right? Or when Broken Blade has one of his big carry performances. And then we can say, hey, this team is extremely, extremely well-rounded. There's also the fact that I don't think Fnatic is very good, and that was one of their wins. Excel has looked rocky, and then they just crushed Astralis, who's probably the worst team in this league. What does that mean for the future? I am excited to see this team in best of threes. But I think my main takeaway was that I think they're really well coached, and I'm super looking forward to the G2 Vitality game next Sunday.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.